one time we couldn't achieve what they'd achieved 2,000 years ago. It was unbelievable.
In the mummy's mouth, doctors found a clay seal revealing his name, Sui. Sui was a magistrate who died in 167 BC, about the same time as Xinjue. Two of the ancient world's best preserved bodies had been buried only a few years and less than 200 miles apart. And in China's Yangtze River Valley, a part of the world that seemed to be a mortician's nightmare.
I would say that the climate of the Yangtze River Valley is quite likely one of the worst in the world in which to preserve human remains. Soil in this particular part of the world, of course, is very wet, very high humidity. You have very hot and you also have very cold weather. And so it would be a huge challenge to the hand mortician to be able to preserve a human body forever.
When most people think of mummies, they think of a dry mummy wrapped in linen found in Egypt. That's the old classic one. The Egyptian approach, the internal organs needed to be removed quickly. It was a hot environment. Bodies rapidly decomposed in that type of environment unless they were treated by having the organs removed and then quickly salted and dried. The Chinese method is very different. In terms of the quality of the work, it's quite impressive. In many ways, a step above what the Egyptians achieved.
Archaeologist Charles Hyam of New Zealand's Otago University believes there's only one way to truly appreciate why Xinjue looks as good as she does. You have to come here, to the hill of Ma Huangdui where she was buried, and see with your own eyes the incredible work of the men who buried her. Xinjue went to paradise inside one of the largest tombs ever dug, a massive inverted pyramid over 40 feet deep. Digging this super tomb must have taken years and cost a fortune. But Charles Hyam believes that if we can go inside the hill of Ma Huangdui, we can actually feel why Xinjue's tomb builders buried her so far underground.
This air raid shelter lies directly beneath the tomb of Xinjue. And the first thing you notice when you come into it is how icy cold it is. It's a sort of natural refrigerator. Indeed, looking around me, I can see that the whole place is stacked with stored bananas. I suppose that they've kept them here to stop them from ripening too quickly. I think this is probably one reason why the Chinese builders of this tomb chose to dig it so deep. They knew that down there at this great depth, that the powers of preservation of this really very, very chilly atmosphere would do their work in perpetuity.
But natural refrigeration wasn't the only thing Xinjue's embalmers understood. This pattern pressed into her skin reveals another of their powerful defenses against decay. Whoever buried Xinjue wrapped her body as tightly as they could in an astounding 20 layers of silk. This silk cocoon suffocated bacteria living inside her body. Bacteria which normally begin devouring a human body as soon as it dies. But even this wasn't enough for Xinjue's master morticians. They placed her wrapped body in no fewer than 4 coffins, each designed to fit tightly inside one another, and each sealed with a thick coating of raw lacquer. Then, they encased these coffins inside a massive burial chamber, over 20 feet long, over 20 feet wide, and nearly 10 feet high. They surrounded the burial chamber with 5 tons of charcoal and a moisture-blocking layer of clay 4 feet thick. Finally, they packed the tomb shaft tightly with soil and capped the top with a mound of earth some 50 feet high. Sinjue's embalmers had vacuum sealed her for eternity. But was it enough to make her the mummy we marvel at today?
Similar tombs, deep tombs in cool environments in other parts of the world have not preserved bodies to this degree. They just haven't done it. And so, to me, there has to be some additional element.
Did Sinjue's embalmers have one more trick up their sleeves? An ancient text may reveal a clue. A text that gives detailed instructions for embalming the dead. It says that after washing a corpse, embalmers kept it cold and wrapped it in layers of clothing. It also says that after they placed the wrapped body in its coffin, the embalmers did one more thing before they closed the lid. They poured in a mysterious liquid. Could that liquid have played a decisive role in preserving bodies? Some think it's possible. Another astonishing find would deepen even further this deepest mystery of the diva mummy. In the 1970s, Chinese scientists wondered at the lifelike corpses of the Lady Sinjue and the magistrate Sui, 2,000-year-old bodies from the Han Dynasty, buried deep in the earth inside air and watertight coffins. It seemed that the key to their preservation had been ancient morticians' sophisticated techniques for protecting them from water and air. But there was another, even more incredible possibility. Archaeologists found Sinjue and the magistrate Sui floating in a mysterious reddish fluid. Ancient Chinese texts tell of embalmers pouring a special liquid into coffins just before they sealed them. Were Sinjue and the magistrate Sui floating in that liquid? A long-lost elixir for preserving human flesh? Chemical analysis of the coffin fluid only deepened its mystery. It was mildly acidic and contained traces of cinnabar, a mercury ore, and an ancient Chinese medicine for prolonging life. Acid and cinnabar could have helped kill flesh-destroying bacteria. But experts have never stopped debating how the fluid got into the coffins. Some insist it was merely water that leaked into the tombs. Since the 1970s, no one's been able to resolve the coffin fluid debate. Now, another discovery has reinvigorated that debate. Lianyungang is a small industrial city on China's seacoast, about halfway between Shanghai and Beijing. Like other Chinese cities, It's modernizing at lightning speed. In July 2002, local museum curator Zhou Jinping got a phone call from a road crew who'd uncovered a strange wooden box.
We knew there were a lot of Han Dynasty tombs around here. I told the road crew to stop digging and told my staff to be at the site first thing in the morning.
The next morning, a museum cameraman recorded these images, never before seen outside China, of the archaeologists at work. By evening, they'd excavated 3 coffins inside a burial chamber, finding only bones. They decided to transport a 4th coffin to the museum for safekeeping overnight. The next morning, museum workers struggled to pry open its tightly sealed lid until something inside made them stop.
I was about to touch it when my fellow worker shouted, "They are legs, human legs." I was shocked and pulled back my hand. Then I pried the board up and took a closer look. It was a leg. I was scared and jumped back. In my 24 years as an archaeologist, I had never seen a corpse that hadn't decomposed.
The Liangyonggang Museum found itself in charge of a 2,000-year-old body of Lin Huiping, the wife of a Han Dynasty official, decomposing before their eyes in the open air and the 100-degree summer heat.
I ran back to my office and called a group of experts in Beijing, asking them what I should do. But the experts told me they didn't know. I was stunned. If the experts in Beijing didn't know, what was I going to do?
A few anxious phone calls later, Zhou Jinping found his expert in Shanghai, home of some of China's most beautiful buildings. This is not one of them. But Professor Xu Yongqiang likes coming here to visit some old friends. Very old friends. Professor Xu is one of China's foremost forensic anthropologists. He's devoted his career to understanding the mysteries of preserving human flesh. This is his masterpiece. Yan Fu Sing, an army officer, martial arts expert, and practicing Buddhist. Yan's been dead about 700 years, but he's in remarkably good shape for his age. That's because Professor Xu has been injecting him with an experimental preservative developed to keep modern Chinese corpses looking good for their funerals. Yan Fu Sing is still flexible and moist 3 years after archaeologists opened his tomb and exposed him to the air.
We've done experiments to see if there's any bacteria or mold inside the body. We couldn't find any, so we think this formula is very effective in body preservation.
Xu Yongqiang helped Liangyonggang Museum preserve the body of Lin Huiping. He consulted with the team of scientists who rushed to Liangyonggang to study the newest miracle mummy. They peered into her with non-invasive body scans, far more sophisticated than anything used on Sin Shui or the magistrate Sui. But in the end, only the knife would reveal her secrets. In this never-before-seen video, filmed exclusively for this program, the team autopsies Lin Huiping and marvels at her ancient embalmer's brilliant achievement.
In our modern forensic work, the bodies we see have badly decayed after only a few hours in the summer, and in winter after a few days. It's inconceivable that this corpse can be in such good condition after more than 2,000 years.
Today, scientists in the city of Nanjing are studying Lin Huiping, and they're interested in more than just her incredibly well-preserved body. Lin Huiping's coffin was also full of fluid. The Nanjing team is testing that fluid to see if it will yield any clues to the elixir mystery. The tests have revealed high levels of magnesium in salt. The salt could have been a preservative or just salty water leaking in from Lianyanggang's coastal soil. Perhaps further tests will tell. But for now, all anyone can do is choose sides in an ongoing debate.
The coffin liquid isn't a formula for preservation, like the formulas we use today. In ancient times, there was no chemical method for preserving bodies. If liquid had seeped into the coffin, it would have brought in bacteria, which would have rotted the corpse. So I think when the corpse was buried, the liquid was already in the coffin.
But even if we don't know why Sijue and her fellow mummies are so well preserved, the Lady of Dai has told us more than any other mummy about the life and death of an ancient human being. And it's been a revelation. China's diva mummy has overturned some of our most cherished beliefs about our distant ancestors.
这个输油管每天运输70万桶石油，可是一个坏了的阀门就足以引发一场环境大灾难。